Hello.
Before we start, I think you all have done it, but I just kindly ask you to switch off your microphone, just to mute it, and also to keep your video switched off for now, even though we'd love to see you. With so many people in the webinar, I think the connection might not support it, but there will be an opportunity to switch on your video and show your lovely face a bit later on. I'm obviously not alone. I'm joined by my lovely teammate, Emily. You can already
Good
see her.
evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us and for taking the time. It really means a lot to us, and we hope that this webinar is going to be useful and also interesting.
Exactly. We'll make sure it is. Let's dive in. We'll have a first part with content and a second part with questions and answers, roughly until 7:30.
Just a little bit about me. My name is Emily Deschaine. I am a proud member of the TEDxLausanne team for the past 6 years. In my day job, I work for the UN, but I have a background in theater and also international relations. We're going to be talking about some of the things that we see in TEDxLausanne and how we, particularly as a team, work together. So I'll pass over to Chris.
Yes, I've been part of the TEDxLausanne team for 3 years now. I've attended the École Hôtelière de Lausanne and worked in hotel management, food and beverage operations, and I'm a long-time Toastmasters. My day job is actually what I do with TEDx as well. I'm a speaker and communication coach, and my favorite motto, what I try to apply every day, is that anyone can become a storyteller. And we hope to give you a little glimpse of that as well, next to all the other content we have. So, to give you a rough overview of what we're going to cover, our goal today is to give you, firstly, a broad overview of our work as a TEDxLausanne team. And it's important for me to notice or to mention that obviously it's not just Emily and me. There are more.
No.
But to keep the webinar easy and concise, it's just the two of us for today. But you'll get to know us more, and if you follow us on any of the platforms, I'm sure you've seen the other faces. There are more than a few more. We'll talk about how we select and screen speakers. Things that we are often asked is how do you actually become a speaker and how do we select? Then we'll touch on the time commitment. If you were chosen or if you want to become a speaker, what does it actually take? How much time do you need to invest? Then we've selected a few of our favorite situations and examples in terms of applications and profiles that we've collected over the years, and we hope to give you a little bit more of an idea of what we deal with and from what pool we have to pick the raw diamonds that will then become speakers. And by the end, as I said, after the first part, we'll have a Q&A. And that's why we have set up a chat that is curated and managed by our lovely colleague, Melita Campbell. So you can post your questions in the chat while we are talking, so we keep it smooth. And we'll try to address as many as we can by the end. And you will also have the chance at the end to actually ask your questions, switch on your video and your microphone. But for now, please put them in the chat, and we'll try to make it as quick as possible to get all through those once we're in that section.
Thanks, Chris. Just a little moment for a few words about us in case you're not familiar with TEDxLausanne. So we are an association of sorry? Can you guys shut down can you mute your mics for us? That would be great. That way we can all continue on. We're about 10 years old, and we're going to be celebrating our 10 years as TEDxLausanne. We would have celebrated it this year, but obviously we're looking forward to celebrating that with even more excitement next year. We do a variety of things at TEDxLausanne. The association is bigger than just one event, but our main focus and the focus of this particular team will be on the TEDxLausanne main event, which happens once a year. It's for about 500 people, and it takes place in English. Now, separate from that, we also have our TEDxLausanne Salon, which is a couple of times a year, a much more smaller venue and format, usually taking place in French. Around Lausanne, and usually connected to some sort of local issues. And we also have a very popular TEDxLausanne Women, which is another associated group that works with us. And they are doing, obviously, very feminist forward content and promoting the vision and the values of women. And they're a really great group as well, so check them out.
Yes, and just one thing, Emily, that we always forget because it has become so much common sense for us. Can you also tell us what the X stands for in TEDx?
Yes. So TEDxLausanne, we are the X as in an independently organized TEDx event. You can see that on the logo. The important thing to note is that because we follow the TED methodology and because we follow the TED rules and regulations, we are licensed by TED to hold these events, but we are not TED itself. It's important to note that so that we are able to curate our own content and able to do our own events that are separate from the sort of TED events that you've come to know, I'm sure, through the website. However, it is important to note that a lot of TEDx events are featured on the TED website, and we'll come to that a little bit later.
Yes, exactly. Now, diving into the really interesting stuff. How do you actually become a speaker? Well, let's start on a more general level, which is not exactly specific to us in Lausanne. Almost all the TEDx events, as the TED events themselves, do have a website. And usually that's a good idea to start looking for an application form or process on that website. You get more information, you get to know the theme, as many events have themes, and you can start the process. Now, moving down to Lausanne, because this is where we're experts in, this is our event, if we may say so. We do have an application form on the website where you can click and submit an application. It asks you for a little bit of first line information on the topic you would like to speak about, a little bit of the content, your profile, and some information that allows us to follow up on this application. And that's when the whole team gets involved. Now, Emily, what happens when this application gets to the team?
So we're going to talk in more detail about this in just a minute, but to give you an overview, the team receives all of the applications and we screen every single application. We're looking for a variety of things. We'll get into that with you, but the idea is that your application becomes a listing that appears for the team, and the ability to use that application form in the website helps us to then track and to make sure that we've seen your application, that someone has reviewed it, that we're able to follow up correctly. So even though it might be tempting to reach out kind of individually, we always encourage people to use the application form.
Yes, exactly, because there are times when we get a lot. So this also helps us to make sure that we don't lose any or anything falls off the table, so to say.
Exactly.
That would be a shame because, as Murphy's Law once said, that might just be the best speech of that year.
Exactly.
And once we have selected it, the actual coaching process starts. Because we do support the speakers a lot. And we will get a bit more into this after it, but it just to say that you do not have to be an outstanding public speaker. We help you to shape your idea into an impactful talk and run you through a process that is loaded with our experience across the team of many, many years from professional backgrounds that are in the subject matter and from backgrounds that are more in the public speaking, theater background, so the technical side of things. And all that makes a great pool of advice, support, and encouragement for you to actually give the best talk of your life when you're on stage.
Yeah, and maybe just to mention here, Chris, also that TEDxLausanne is very professionalized in how we look at our association. So when you see something that's coming out from TEDxLausanne, the people who are working on our comms are usually comms professionals. The people who work on production usually have a production background. The same with our speaker coaching team. So Chris and I are a part of a wider team of people, and we have experience not only in public speaking and coaching and theater, but also the TED methodology. And we'll get into why that's important later.
Exactly. This screening process, how do we actually select an idea if we get so many applications? Now, how original is the idea and the topic? What does that mean, Emily?
I think what we're looking for here is a topic that is something that people haven't necessarily heard before, or that's maybe quite contradictory to something that is considered general knowledge. We're looking for a new, original, genuine idea. What do we mean by that? We mean if somebody else had a great idea and you'd like to do a presentation on it, that's not quite the same thing. We're looking for people who can really speak genuinely about these topics. And so there needs to be a kind of expertise that's behind that in some way, shape, or form.
Right. And when we get an idea, obviously we do not expect it to be fully rounded and ready to go on stage. It's the first phase where we get exposed to an idea. And one of the great advantages I believe we do have in our team is that we have a variety of professional backgrounds and expertise which go into science. We have PhDs in our team, scientists. So we are able to not only Google the topic and identify what is new about that idea, how much is already out there, but we can actually drill down further and investigate, because we do have people who touch upon several fields and who also are very familiar with scientific methods, research, and academia, so they can quickly identify strong ideas that are well researched and backed up, but also spot top layer ideas where there's the depth lacking, so it wouldn't hold for an entire talk.
Yeah, this team expertise is something that we rely on quite a lot, because we often get ideas that we think, oh, maybe that could be interesting. And then we check that with some of the members of the team, as Chris is saying, either from a scientific background or from a business background, to say what's already on the market, what's already being suggested. Are these things that are sort of not necessarily new, but presented in a different way? And so that team expertise really helps us out.
Yes. And then we come to the second layer of evaluation. That is, why this speaker and why now? Mm. It may definitely be the case that we receive an application which, based on the idea, is interesting. And certainly more than just us are interested in this idea. However, there are some evaluations to be made, some discussions to conduct to identify, does it fit this year's event? So it needs to fit with a theme we have set for the event. That's something that's rather broad, but still gives the TEDx event direction. And we're not the only ones to do that. It's quite common in TEDx events to keep it all sort of on a general umbrella. And this is maybe a bit less precise to describe, but we also check a lot that it fits the zeitgeist. Mm. Now, Emily, you're always quite good at explaining what that actually means.
We're looking for something that people are talking about in the general public, that there's a kind of interest in. We've seen topics in the past that have ranged from everything from artificial intelligence to virtual reality to new methods for scientific approaches. I mean, these are things that are already being discussed. And so the idea is that you've already got a bit of an interest from that audience. And remember, as always, we're looking not only at the event itself, but also the video that you would have as a speaker that would be living on into eternity and maybe even featured on the TED website. So we're looking for something that's really going to capture people's imaginations or attention.
Yes, and we often get asked, how do you know? We can't take the global audience, let's say YouTube. What do YouTube watchers around the world like? No, of course, we base ourselves on the experience we have here in Lausanne, because we are curating the TEDxLausanne event. And we do conduct surveys after the event, for example. So over the years, we have a rather precise idea of what the crowd in this city who attend our event tend to like. And within that experience, we try to build a diverse lineup that covers, ideally, all the major fields, from economics to philanthropy to environmental ideas, maybe also in the area of self-improvement and personal development. But obviously, the idea is always first.
Yeah, and I think, Chris, the other thing to really mention here is that we're pretty lucky in Lausanne, Switzerland, because we have not only a team of people who are represented from 4 different continents, but also a really international setting. So it's a really good litmus test to tap into our network, not unlike all of you that are here today, to say, what's interesting to you? What are you talking about? What are things that really speak to you that you'd like to know more about? I think we're in a very unique situation here in Switzerland.
Absolutely. Enough bragging for our team. It's great to have it, but I'm sure other TEDx events have different assets, but you're right. And we leverage that a lot because the attitude is there. We want to make a great event that's worthwhile to attend year after year. Now, going back a bit to the slide, let's say we have this idea. We feel it fits the zeitgeist and it fits the theme. Still, there are occasions that I remember over the last years where we really struggled to decide, is there actually enough to make a TED Talk? And that means sometimes, I think 2 years ago, we had a great person, a speaker, potential speaker, coming out of the university in Lausanne, researching in her PhD work for a quite interesting subject in the larger field of environmental protection and waste reduction. The idea was brilliant, and we definitely thought it deserves a stage. However, it was too early on in the research that there was not enough content, findings, information to actually make it a compelling TED Talk of something between 8 and 15 minutes, which is where most of our talks are situated. And that's something that we do as well, discuss with the speakers. It's not to say, oh, let's not go away. No, we say, no, we discuss that because we want to set them up for success, not only for our event, but for those speakers to use that platform, potentially also for their research, their personal development, and so on. So the idea is really something worth spreading.
Yeah, and I think, Chris, that leads into your next point, which is about the story behind it, right? We need to make sure that your talk, even if you're the expert and you have a lot of expertise, that talk is something that's going to be of value for non-experts. So that means that if you're a scientist and you're presenting that research, like in Chris's example, you need to be able to explain that in a way that someone who's not from a scientific background can really understand what you're saying. Not everybody's ready to do that at various points. And so we try and help them along. It has been the case where we've come back to speakers that it's been too early 1 year to give that talk, but they've come back a year later when things have developed and they gave great talks. So we're always looking at that sort of timeline of that story.
Now, let me open a little parenthesis. There is a case that we witness every time an event takes place, and unfortunately more than once. It seems that some people are the opinion of that applying over and over again and asking all the friends to send applications into us for the same person, the same topic, might help. We can reassure you that for us, the idea is first, and it's always quality before quantity. So it's rather the case that if we receive within a week 50 times an application for the same speaker from various sources, and sometimes or often just with a copy paste of the very same words in the application letter, we rather lean towards saying, okay, we are annoyed. It's like spam email, no one likes it. This person seems so desperate to speak. So we touch that carefully. Doesn't mean that we reject it right away, but it's definitely not helping the application. Rather apply yourself if you want to, make sure you fill in the application correct, everything we need is there, and then we get in touch and discuss. Your idea is worth spreading if it's worth spreading, irrespective of you just having submitted an application or someone else having submitted it in all of your network.
The next version of that, as you can imagine, is that we can see very clearly, and it happens every year, people who have sent the exact same copy-paste letter to every TEDxLausanne association that they can find online. We can see that it's not necessarily specific to TEDxLausanne. We can see that it's often quite broad and doesn't really answer some of the questions that we're looking for. We would argue that anytime that you're interested to give a TEDx talk or that you have an idea worth spreading, that you really take the time to make sure that it's in line with what you can find on the website, the kind of ethos of that particular association. It's really important for us to be able to see that you can shift your language and shift your pitch depending on what you're looking at. So just a quick tip there.
Yes, right. Also to protect our inbox a little bit. All right, and once the speaker has been, let's say, considered interesting, worth investigating and discussing with, then there is sort of the external evaluation where we are not looking only at the application, but we are in contact with the speaker. And that's where we drill deeper to the key message, to see and understand what is it that you really want to get across? What is this very singular message that needs to be on a TEDx stage? Sometimes we like to paraphrase it poetically saying, what is your gift to the audience? Why is it worthwhile for me and the audience to offer you 8 to 15 minutes of my time because you have something so great to share? So we do that. We play the devil's advocate. Then we challenge the topic and the speaker. And that's something that links back to what's on the left side of that slide, sorry. Meaning we challenge the topic. Why the topic? Why now? If we Google it and we find within 5 minutes 10 different YouTube videos or even TED Talks on the very same notion of the topic, well, the speaker candidate might have a tough time arguing why, again, there should be a TED Talk on the very same notion. However, if it's a widely discussed topic, for example, blockchain over the last 3 years, and suddenly that speaker has a completely different and new view or application of this topic, then we might be intrigued and investigate further to see, well, maybe that's in addition to this highly zeitgeist topic.
Yeah, I also think that we're looking at what's in it for the audience in a really broad sense. We need to see that there's a so what to your idea we're spreading. And what do we mean by so what? We mean that if you, for example, are going to be telling a story about something that's happened to you personally, that you're resilient over time, that some bad things have happened, but you've overcome them, we need to see the so what. There needs to be a message somewhere in there. And this follows the TED methodology, if you've read anything about that, is about this kind of call to action. How do you engage the audience to think beyond just the 15 minutes that you're on stage or the 15 minutes that they've watched your talk, but to engage them in a way that they feel compelled to do something afterwards, to investigate more, to look at their own behavior, to read up on something that they wouldn't necessarily have been interested in. That so what for us is really key because it drives a lot of the interest that we get in the network, and it certainly drives the interest that we see from the videos.
Right, and that's a great lead to our next point, which is more on the content, the selection criteria. What are we actually looking for? Well, Emily touched upon it numerous times already. We're looking for original ideas, concepts, stories, something that people remember. It's not just the economic concept explained again, just in your brilliant words. It's something more original that is meaningful. And we always come back to this line TEDx uses so often, the idea is worth spreading. I can't put it in better words. It's really all about that. And together with that goes relatability, vulnerability, credibility, all big words, but really important for you to succeed as a speaker, to create a talk, to deliver a talk that people will remember. And
we need to know that you're uniquely qualified to speak on that topic. And we can go about that in several different ways. It doesn't mean that you have to be the only person in the world who's uniquely qualified, but it certainly means that you need to have an important element of your work, of things that have happened in the past to you, to be able to speak on that topic. It's really important also because when people watch someone presenting on stage, you can tell very quickly, even with no training, who's relatable and who's credible. You can see that from, as we would say in Lausanne, from a kilometer away. It's really important for you to be able to stand on stage and to be your most authentic self. And that's something that we look for in speakers.
Yes, and that's something we witness when well done every time. And that's how we accompany you to achieve that, obviously. It's not easy, but we can help you to do that. And metaphorically speaking, it's really about giving the audience a little slice of your true self. We all want to see something true, honest in the person who's speaking. It makes your message so much more impactful and memorable, and we will help you to do that. But we need to see a little spark on it that we can coach. If there's nothing, or for example, you believe that you're already perfect, which we are in no position to judge, but that will make a collaboration a bit more difficult. Because even though it's the last point here on the left side, it's one of the most important notions. You need to be willing to be coached.
The TEDx methodology, and I think this is really where we see those who become TEDx superstars compared to those who kind of get forgotten, is that the TED methodology is a very specific methodology. It is not like other public speaking methodologies in that there is one part that is content and there's one part that's performance. And to be able to manage that effectively, you almost have to forget what you know about public speaking generally. TEDx talks and TED Talks in general are not about being lectured at. Nobody wants to be lectured at. Nobody wants to hear a 30-slide presentation on a general concept. That's not what the TED audience is looking for. They're looking to be engaged and educated and entertained while they're doing it. And so that's a really important point around how we're looking at speakers going forward. There's one part that's content and there's one part that's delivery. And that performance element is absolutely crucial. It's not only crucial for the event itself, it's obviously crucial for the success of the video.
Yes, because your true audience is online. There are 500 people at the event, and that's nerve-wracking enough. Yeah. But if it goes well, there are TEDx videos who have millions and millions of clicks. Yeah. So think about it. And our co-head of the event in Lausanne, Damien, he always says, well, a TEDx is not really a speech, a TEDx talk, it's a performance. And that's quite well said, because it demands the energy of a performance, the preparation, the delivery, and it can have the impact of a performance. And that's by no means a presentation you would give on an ordinary Wednesday morning at work. It's very different.
It's true. I mean, just a little bit on maybe what we're not looking for. You can see that on the right side of the slide. Obviously, you can tell we're not looking for prepackaged presentations. We're also not looking for sales pitches. This is an important one because I don't want any potential entrepreneurs or those who are in startup situations to feel like they can't also have a space on the TEDx stage. That's not true. What we mean by that is there's a reason that you've started a company. There's a reason that you've created a product. There's a reason you're trying to solve a problem. We want to talk about that. We do not want to hear about all of the different elements of your sales pitch that you would do to investors. It's not that kind of an audience. And frankly, most people don't buy it. They're not there for that purpose. And it seems very disingenuous. So we're really looking at the idea and the concept. We've had a lot of successful talks in the past where people have used the TEDx stage to talk about an innovation or a new product, but not in a sales pitch approach. And we'll help you with that in the coaching process. I also just wanted to share one little point on speaking experience. And I think Chris has some things to add as well.
You need a lot, that's for sure.
You know that it's probably easier sometimes if you've had previous speaking experience. But we've also seen at TEDxLausanne that if you don't have a lot of speaking experience and you're willing to be coached, amazing things can happen. Chris has a great story about this.
Yes, that's true, because if you're not used to speaking, you can actually show yourself easier, give the slides to the audience. And we witnessed something outstanding last fall. We had a young gentleman who we thought would give a great speech because his story is heartwarming and inspirational and ticks all the boxes. Yet he had very little speaking experience. Plus, his mother tongue still is French, and he felt, to say the least, a little uncomfortable speaking in English because we are hosting an English-speaking event. And we helped him and we coached him. And eventually, that talk got standing ovations from the entire theater. And not only us speaker coaches had goosebumps because we were sitting there and listening to every word because we have heard the speech so often and we knew every little roadblock or bump that could have been there. He did marvelously well, and it was such a pleasure to see the recognition he truly deserved. But that was also possible because he trusted us. We worked with him together. Obviously, he put in the work. He rehearsed a lot, but he also was willing to accept some advice, support, and eventually to believe that we believe in him. And it became a great speech that we all invite you to watch on our TEDxLausanne YouTube channel. It's about the Iron Man. You can't miss it.
He's an impressive testament to what it can be if you work hard and you're willing to commit yourself. We've also seen the other side of that. I mean, Chris just told a really beautiful, inspiring story. I'm sort of bringing down the conversation a bit with the other side. The other side of that is we've seen many people, and I'm sure you all met them in your work lives, where they tell you just how great of a speaker they are. They tell you that they've done it all the time, that they feel very comfortable, that they don't need to be coached because they're so comfortable. Again, I refer you to the TED methodology is not a simple methodology, and it requires some practice to use it effectively. And we have seen people who were very good speakers fail very badly on the TEDx stage because they were, first of all, unwilling to be coached in some instances, but also that they were unwilling to realize that the methodology was different. And several of them came back to us after the event and said, I understand what you were saying before, because it is different. And just because you've had a lot of speaking experience at work or, in public or lecturing doesn't necessarily mean you're going to master this right away.
And think also about the opportunity this can possibly become for you. The video is professionally produced. We have a TV quality production team, and it's high quality sound and video. You can share the link to that video to everyone you want. Put it on your website, share it with your network, put it on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and so on. You have a professionally produced video where you speak about something that's really meaningful to you. That has started companies. We have former speakers who have grown their business starting from their TED Talk. So there is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Moving on, coaching process. If you are selected, or when you are selected, because I'm sure everyone who's here has a brilliant idea worth spreading and is only waiting to click the send button.
Can't wait to hear them.
Yes, me too. So this is a rough idea of what you will go through as a speaker. There is a speaker selection, we've covered that. Then we go into coaching sessions, and they alternate with written feedback where you write a draft of your speech. Yes, we encourage a lot to really write out the speech, given the different methodology, to make sure that we maximize impact of your idea. And I think we're quite strong on that side. Then you have coaching sessions again, we discuss and we develop your talk with you together. Everything, and that's very important, everything is tailored to the goal that it is still your talk. You will stand on that stage on that day. You will have to speak. You will have to keep your hands from shaking, keep your voice steady, and smile. At least that's what we tell you all the time, to smile. But we help you to maximize the impact of your talk so it becomes the best talk of your life. Once that is on paper, ready-ish, we go into delivery training. So you will start actually delivering the talk at home to your friends and family, and again, and again, and again, and your children won't want to listen anymore, and your spouse is already putting in the earplugs, but you will listen it. You will rehearse it. You will record yourself on video. We will watch the video. We'll give you feedback. We have coaching sessions again. And all that on a top layer explanation of the process will end up with you doing it just one more time on the day on stage, what you've rehearsed and mastered many times before, because then you already are a TEDx speaker.
The time commitment. So this is something that comes up quite a lot in questions that we get from potential speakers. They say, well, I'd really like to do this, but I don't have any time. I'm very busy. I'm starting a business. I have research to do. What we would suggest is to keep in mind that while you don't need to quit your job to give a TEDx talk, you do need to put some time aside. As Chris just explained in this process, we're looking at something that's developed almost like a script and then is rehearsed almost like a play. So you're looking at a situation where you're getting a lot of feedback from us. There's a lot of reiteration. You're practicing quite a lot. So you need to have some sort of of time set aside to be able to do that effectively. That being said, we have certainly worked with people at different levels who have different amounts of free time. I have done coaching sessions with people on trains. I've done coaching sessions with people, sitting in between meetings. It's certainly possible. Chris has had many more than I have, and it's certainly possible to be able to do that. We work on video. We work on text. Sometimes we do WhatsApp calls. We're able to shift to your needs based on what your availability is. However, we give the grand scheme of things, the sort of beginning of the coaching process. We're looking at probably one coaching a week. You need to keep that in mind. You're going to be doing a lot of work for yourself. It's a lot of homework to get that script up to that level. And then when we get to the delivery training phase, we're looking at 1 to 2 coaching sessions a week. That'll depend a little bit on how comfortable you are speaking in public. That will also depend on how much time you have to do these kinds of videos and to do that back and forth. And then obviously there's going to be a really important process leading up to the event. So probably just a week before the event or so, we're really going to see that escalate because we want to make sure that it's really ready to go and tight.
And once the day before, everyone is here in Lausanne, we also do have a rehearsal. So
we do a proper dress rehearsal where you come wearing the clothes you're going to wear. We run the whole thing. We have the lights. We have the transition. It's almost as if you're doing a performance.
Only the luxury that you have only all the lovely speaker coaches, the communications team, and the production team who all love you already, who cheer for you in the audience. And the next day there will be some 480 people more, but piece of cake. By then, you'll find it easy and you're looking forward to it. Now, shall we look at some real life stuff? Emily, are you up for a little bit of role play?
These are real examples. Examples we see every year. We're excited. All right, go ahead.
Okay, Emily, let me pose as one of the applicants. So I'm a startup founder. I've just started my company, actually is the third because I do that really, really well. And I think it would be a great idea for me to present my company on the TEDx event this year because it's really up to date. We need it. It saves the planet. And here's also my slide deck. If you want to look at it, I can do it. And I think it would be a great idea. Can I please have the speaking spot?
So I'm going to go back to what we had said before, right? We're talking about these opportunities to talk about an idea or a concept or an innovation. We're less interested in hearing about your product and all of the different things that it does. There's a great set of examples that you can look at on TED.com for people who are talking about the ideas behind a company. And so we've seen one a couple of years ago where there was a really interesting innovation around being able to read quickly and a piece of technology that could help you with that. Instead of talking about the product itself and saying, look at this product, it's so great, it's so wonderful. Instead of doing that, we took a step back and said, what's the problem this product is trying to solve? And so that's something that I would say to Chris as a potential startup founder. What's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the innovation that you found? Who's going to use this? Why is this important? Why now? I think that's really where that startup and entrepreneur space really fits on the TEDx stage.
Yes, excellent, good answer.
Yeah. All right, I'll do one, Chris.
Yes.
It's my turn. Let's go with this one. Chris, I'm an academic and I am absolutely passionate about my research and my work. I sit in the lab, I work on these things all the time. I eat, sleep, and breathe this. I've been doing this for years. I have amazing results, but I don't like to speak in public. And I'm not really comfortable. And everyone tells me that I should do a TEDx talk because what I study is so important, but I'm not sure. And I'm not really sure how to explain it to people who don't do what I do.
Yes, that's actually an application we identify a lot. And it's a great opportunity because here might be a fantastic TED talk. Now, let's go on the content side. It is quite common for us to review speaker candidates coming from the academic world. And usually, especially when these people are at a stage where they have a PhD, sometimes two, or they're professors, they've spent obviously the better part of their professional life deeply immersed in that topic. And they struggle a little bit to identify the bits and pieces that are relevant for the TEDx stage that they need to talk about in maximum of 18 minutes, because there's so much they know and they could talk about, which all seems more or less equally important. So on that stage, we can already help to drill down to the key message. I touched up on that a couple of slides ago. So that we'll cover. We'll help you to select the idea at the very center that's worth spreading. For the part about being nervous on stage, first of all, that's quite normal. Everyone has that. Even we do. As weird as it might seem to some, but we are human after all. So even we find it nerve-wracking to stand on a red dot in the spotlight in front of 500 people. And that's something that you do not have to get rid of entirely. That would be quite weird because I've never seen anyone who could just switch it off. But we can really help you to train, to master your presentation in that very moment. Because if your idea is really worth spreading, the risk of not spreading it and not anyone knowing it, if it's that significant, will be far greater than the risk of perhaps forgetting one sentence or having a little bit of shaky hands or losing your voice at the very beginning. That makes you, by the worst or by the best actually, just a little bit more approachable and relatable. It's this vulnerability. We wouldn't plan for it, but if it happens, oftentimes it just buys you a bit more credit with the audience. And when you then push through and you deliver a great talk and a great idea, you will be the superstar.
I have to say also, Chris, there's an important part to this, which is about that performance and delivery training. On some of the rehearsals, and when we work with people like this example that we're giving, we often take time to do physical exercises.
Yes.
Similar to what you would see in an improv group or in theater. Why? Because it's really important that you're training your body as well as you're training your voice. It's a two-part system, and we know that people actually do perform better when they have a bit more of a sense of where they need to place their body, where they should put their hands, how they should stand, when they should move. Those sorts of things are sort of part of muscle memory, and you almost have to train as if you were an athlete to be able to manage that appropriately. And that's something that we work on as well, and that we offer as part of the coaching process.
Exactly. Now, the last example, and I really like that one. Let me approach it. I'm the candidate. Emily, I've heard you work at TEDx. I speak very frequently at events, and I have a really good presentation. It's 45 minutes, but I can tune it down to 15, whatever you need, it's not a problem. I would like to offer you the opportunity to have me at your TEDx event. It will surely be a great addition to your lineup. I've also sent you my slide deck of the 45 minutes. If you like, here's a video recording of my talk I gave at the WEF the other day. If you're interested, here's my email of my assistant. You can set it about everything, and I'd be happy to speak to make your event greater.
If we had 1 Swiss franc for every time we get an application that sounds just like what Chris described, we could all quit our day jobs because it happens quite often. So what we're talking about here is someone who is a frequent lecturer, who provides keynotes, who, maybe they're an author, maybe they're a professor, but they are very comfortable with that general public speaking approach. And usually we get, exactly as Chris described, a pre-done slide deck that they hand to us and say, this is my presentation. So again, we take that obviously a bit carefully, but we step back from that and we say, first of all, TED rules say nothing over 18 minutes. And to be honest, if you look at the data, which we have done, you'll see that most people really only have you only have the attention of most people for about 15 minutes. I mean, if it's really engaging, 15 minutes. Frankly, most people stop listening after about 8 to 10. And so you would have to have some really impressive content to be able to do anything up to that 18-minute mark. When you talk about someone who's used to giving 45-minute lectures, that's a longer time frame. It's a different methodology. You approach it differently. We're looking at a very different stage and a very different audience, an audience that would not appreciate that kind of an approach. We also have to get back to that call to action. So what? Okay, so you've been doing this talk all over the world. You've been giving this keynote in 3 different languages in 3 different countries. Great. So what? Why does this particular audience need to hear what you have to say? And usually there's something behind that very polished slide deck that's quite interesting. There's a story about why they got into that industry in the first place. There's a story about why those topics are more important now than they used to be. There's usually something there, and we try and work from that angle. It doesn't mean that those frequent public speakers or lecturers can't be successful on our stage. It also often means that they provide a different approach to the TED methodology because they have a sort of already, they're more comfortable with being on stage. And so we can work a little bit more around the content piece and what they're putting out. It's an exciting thing to be able to work with those different levels of people. And we wanted to give you these examples, these situations, because many people ask us questions quite often about these sorts of examples.
Exactly, and don't be intimidated, but think about it. If you have an idea, would you yourself sacrifice the time to listen to yourself? Is it at that level developed? You can apply, we're very happy, we don't want to scare you away, but also to raise some flags of things that obviously don't work.
All right, so we have now reached the part of the webinar where we'd like to engage you a little bit. We have an opportunity of a poll that's coming up that we are going to be looking at future content. As we know, people are online more often now. We're seeing that a lot more people are able to have some free time to engage in this type of content. And we know that our TEDx network is really interested in different types of ideas. So we're interested to know from you what other sorts of webinars or topics would be interesting to you. We're obviously committed to keeping this going as much as we can in 2020 as we lead into 2021 and our next in-person event where we can see all of you lovely people face to face. But here is some of the things that we've thought from the top of our list that maybe might be interesting.
Yes, and I will not read them all to you, but when I ask our dear moderator, Melita, in just a moment to open the poll, we'd really love for you to select those topics that you would like to see in a webinar. We have a lot of experience and resources that we can share. There are some that are more focused on the public speaking side of things. Some are more focused on the general organization of a conference such as TEDx. So please, Melita, if you could be so kind to launch the poll, and we'd really appreciate if you guys select the or several elements that you would like to hear about, and it will actually shape what we will do over the next month.
Great. Thanks so
results
much.
coming in.
Everybody's coming in. That's fantastic. Thanks, Melita, for getting that sorted. As you can imagine, we're looking at a variety of topics that could engage people, but we want to make sure that it's something that works for you, for this network. We think it's really important to engage you with things that you'd like to hear more about. All right, coming in.
Yes, and we will obviously share results, not right now, but over the coming weeks. Our communications team, team of super motivated and driven individuals and experts, they can't wait to bombard you on the social networks and newsletters with all the wonderful content we'll do and more tips and tricks of how you can, even in your daily job and at home, maybe in relationship argument situations. Not saying that you have any, but I heard it helps to be a good public speaker when you argue with your significant other, and we'll share content. And that's also a reason for you to stay in touch with us if you like. Sign up to the newsletter, follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram. We really will nourish these platforms a lot over the next weeks and hope to provide insights, tips, tricks, techniques, and elements of our experience that will make you more successful communicators in everyday life.
Yeah, and then obviously we're going to get into the question and answer in a big way just shortly. But I did also want to just mention that, you know, Chris and I are doing this on behalf of the team this time. If you liked what you heard today, if you found it helpful, please feel free to give us some feedback. We'd be very happy to receive it. If you have some ideas about what we should also include for future events, please let us know. We'll be giving you some ways to get in touch with us.
Great. So, poll collected. Thank you very much for everyone who participated. It's much appreciated. Let me move on. Before we start the Q&A, we always are asked, so what TED Talks should we watch? And there are a gazillion talks online, so I even haven't watched all. Damien, part of our team who I mentioned earlier, I think he calculated last year how long it would take to actually watch all the TEDx videos. And it was not just a couple of days. So, and there are more added almost on a daily basis. But Emily and I have spent hours and hours online drinking coffee and tea to select 5 that we thought were appropriate to share today.
Yeah, we thought about these 5 because a lot of people ask us questions about where to watch TEDx Talks to help them be better speakers. Yes. And so these are the ones that we really, really dug into. Obviously, those aren't the only ones, but we decided to narrow it down to 5 because otherwise it wouldn't.
We had to. This is a good mix between great tips and also great demonstration of delivery and speaking. Yeah. So it's not just content, but also the way these individuals speak. So if you have a minute or two, we recommend to watch those.
Great. All right. Chris, have we arrived?
We have, actually, right on time. Everyone, you're very welcome to switch on your video if you like. It helps us to see you. We will now take, firstly, some of the questions that were submitted in the chat. so that we can try to go through some of those at least. And then we will also take questions from you guys who have dialed in, who have listened to us quietly so far, very well behaved. Thank you very much. Emily, have you already got a question identified, or should I maybe take one from the audience to give you a moment?
Why don't you give me just a moment? I'm scrolling here. I'm scrolling. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, then the courageous first one is always the most courageous and daring one. Who has got a question for us? Please unmute your microphone and shoot away.
So, hi, this is Vinder. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
So, first of all, thank you for your talk. It was really nice and very insightful. So, and very succinct and clear, and you had a good combination. So, thank you and congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, I think it's a question that that's also in the group chat. I was curious. I went on your website and I couldn't see where were the themes of the next talks and next TEDx sessions. So I don't know if the themes have already been identified, subjects that are going to be spoken about. So how do we know that?
Yes, it's a good question. So it's about the theme of the conference. That's something that we said once we have set a date for a conference. And we will officially announce the theme usually somewhere around 4 to 6 months before the conference. And as pretty much all of our lives are currently slowed down, to say the least, by Corona, we had to take the difficult but important decision to put safety first. So there will be no event this year, unfortunately. Meaning for the event in 21, we have not yet set a date because we feel the situation is still too unpredictable for us to do so. And the theme will be announced once we have the date and will be made available over LinkedIn. Usually we make quite a tum-tum around it, and you will hear the theme then.
And you also have our dear curator, Demia, who's joined us, who also asked in the chat if there were some themes that you would be interested to hear about. So if you have any ideas, feel free to share in the chat so that we can capture those as well. Chris, I have a question here from Eric, who wants to know if we can share a bit more about what Lausanne TEDx participants have expressed interest about in terms of topics. There's certainly quite a range, but I think one of the things that we hear quite often is that people are interested in what's happening in the world around them. So anything that's very local, that's a local issue, but also global issues. There's a nice mix between people who want to hear about things that affect Switzerland, but also things that affect the world. Those are two things that we hear quite often. Chris, do you have any others that you want to highlight?
Yes, very, very popular field is everything that falls in the category of personal development, coaching, self-improvement. Now, I would like to still raise a little flag next to it to avoid, again, people jumping onto it. It is something that we observe is a big trend globally. If you only take LinkedIn, there are a lot of us who move into coaching, personal development, and so on, leadership coaching, executive coaching. Yes, that is an interesting field, but it's not about going on stage and selling your unique method that you've just developed, which is sort of a deviation of something existing. And in that field, talks that go in that field are very much subject to the credibility of the speaker. And let me maybe just illustrate that by an example. Because we get a lot of applications who want to speak in this inspirational category, saying, believe in yourself, I want to motivate, you can achieve your dreams, which I, for today, for the example, classify roughly in that category. And if you are someone who has, let's say, lives in Europe, is a single parent, but you earn a 6-digit salary, and you want to speak about how difficult your life is with just one nanny at home that takes care of your children, and you're recently separated. By no means we want to evaluate how your life is, and it's certainly difficult for you, but towards an audience, and I'm just evaluating from a purely speaker coaching perspective, you will probably not enjoy so much credibility for that message than someone else, like the gentleman I mentioned earlier in the example for the great improvement, who has actually had a double lung transplant and a new heart, and he talked about his completion of the Ironman in Nice. And if that guy tells you, well, get off the couch, do something, he enjoys a lot of credibility with the audience.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that goes for a variety of topics. Maybe also just to answer the other part of your question, Eric, we get a lot of questions. I think also because Lausanne is quite an academic city. There's a lot of universities here. We get a lot of questions about what innovations in science and technology are coming through. A lot of people that are really interested in what's happening with virtual reality and AI, and then also the business side, because there's a nice link with IMD as well. And so we get quite a lot of IMD network participants, and so they want to know about what's happening in the business world, what are the new ideas and things like that. So those are kind of roughly some of the categories that come up.
Yes, I have a next question here in the chat. Emily, does it make a difference who proposes or nominates a speaker?
It doesn't make a difference. I mean, usually it's helpful for us to hear from the speaker themselves because we get a sense of what they're going to say. It doesn't mean it's not possible. We've certainly had people that have been recommended to us that have turned out to be great speakers. I would say, I mean, also just to use Chris's phrase of raising a little flag there, if you have gone to an event and you heard a speaker that you think is really great, and you nominate them without actually contacting them, it can be a bit of a difficult thing. You know, we don't necessarily know about their availability. We don't necessarily know if this is the kind of methodology that they'd like to use in their public speaking. So it's often best just to make sure if you're going to nominate somebody else, really check with them before you go ahead and do that.
Yes, one last question I'll take from the chat for now before allow again someone else from the audience to ask a question directly. There was someone asking whether we still include performances in our lineup, and the answer is clearly yes. We always try to add those, and performances is the right term because it is not only musical or artistic. Well, I think it's always artistic, excuse me, but it's something that's not a talk. And that sort of leaves room for everything else. And yes, we do that. We are very proud to have these elements. We feel it adds to the lineup, and we have members of the team who have strong experience also in that area and are very good at identifying, searching, screening, this kind of side, where I have to say my expertise is much smaller, but that is also a nice part of the team because we do have other people who really have a sort of a sixth sense to identify performances that are thought-provoking and also worth spreading to stay within the general theme of TED.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to answer more questions on the performances and how we screen and look at those if you want to send us a message.
Yes.
All right, so should we take a question from the floor? Anybody else have any questions? You can put your hand up or you can...
Mandy.
Mandy's got her hand up. Hi, Mandy.
Yes. Hello, good evening. Thank you very much for the information. It was really very interesting to hear and to learn all of that. Sorry, just let me get rid of that. And I had a question, something very interesting that you said just now, Christopher. You mentioned the credibility of the speaker. And you mentioned somebody that had a double lung transplant and then did an Ironman, which is, of course, absolutely amazing. But this is something that's been playing on my mind in general. There's the topic and there's the field that you're in and the knowledge that you have, and then there's your own personal story. Sometimes it feels a little bit that without a crazy or traumatic personal story, you have little attention or you have little impact on the audience. So I'm just wondering, where is the link in that? Because of course, anyone can go looking in their life and find something that's more or less interesting. Of course, nothing as traumatic as this person. But how much should you be putting that forward versus your content?
So, I mean, I think you raise an important point, Mandy, which is that, I mean, already we're seeing somebody in your question, we're already seeing someone who's already thinking in a little bit more of a self-actualized way. Often what we'll do with that potential speaker is that we'll start to ask a series of questions, and some of them are about more generally what's the topic that you'd like to discuss, and sometimes, as Chris mentioned, we play a bit devil's advocate. So, you know, let's pretend it's you, Mandy. You know, Mandy, why you? Why do you want to talk about this? What do you have to give? Is it because you've seen from your own experience that a couple of things that you've done have changed your life for the better? You know, are you able to articulate that in a way that people can identify with? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to become, that you have to have, you know, survived a traumatic experience, but it does often mean that you need to be able to articulate that in a certain way. Krista,
yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Mandy.
No, it's just sorry, it was just the question in, if I were to apply, how much to put that forward? Because of course, in all of our lives, it's led us to what we're doing. The question is how much to put that forward versus the application. I suppose that's a bit the line that I'm looking for.
I would say a healthy balance is a good idea, because when we get into the screening process, there's going to be some discussion about how you're going to shape that story. And usually there's a reason that people do what they do, you know, to earn money, right? There's a reason. So I think, you know, a healthy balance of being able to say, you know, your kind of background and where you come from and why you've chosen that, into maybe why you're working in that field is usually a good idea. Chris, is there anything else that you want to just jump on that for?
Yeah, actually, yes, because in my work, I see that a lot. And put the idea first, Mandy. It's really important that you truly believe that that idea needs to go on stage. Because if you are determined and you think there's no way around it, not for your financial benefit, but for the benevolence, or because people need to know about that and the notion you bring to it, that we will sense and we will show, and you can put that in words. Everything else that falls into storytelling, and you touched upon what we'll do with you, yes, we will probably work on finding a personal link, which makes it just more memorable, understandable. But by no means it is something to search for pity so that your thing sells, like some unprofessional, let's say, health organizations or third world health organizations put starving children first. Yes, it's the goal to help those, but some seem to exploit images that are maybe exaggerated. So put the idea first and add some additional elements that you feel are important for us to know. I think from my experience, it's enough. So we get an interest, and then we'll discuss it. We get to know you, and we'll find something that makes sense, that actually maximizes the impact of your message without trying to push the buttons to make people cry for no reason.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mandy. Should we take another question here?
Yeah, someone has raised their hand, Emily.
Oh, someone's raised their hand. Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah.
Hi, Isabel. Is it Isabel?
Isabel.
Hi,
Hi there. Yes,
Hi.
that's Isabel. Hi. Thank you so much for your lovely session. That was really eye-opening and really interesting. So thank you so much. Thank you to Melita. That's how I got to know about it. So I'm really happy. And I'm glad she is a star. That's so true. And I'm glad we were muted. Otherwise, you would have heard screaming toddlers behind. So that's good. I would like to ask, in fact, I'm the one who asked about the artistic performances, and I'd like to know, in the past, have you ever had a mix of a TED Talk which would include an artistic performance?
We did. A couple of years ago, we had a mix where there was a bit of an explanation with a more artistic performance, which was really interesting. It's not something that we necessarily always look for every session, but it's certainly something that we've done in the past. It probably depends on what the format is and what kind of approach you take, because we see the performances as a chance to sort of have the audience sit back and just sort of engage in something. You can imagine, right? The artistic performance is really about, you've heard a lot of words, and now, okay, you're going to take something else in. And so we try to balance that out, but it's certainly something we've done in the past. Yeah.
Okay, super.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Isabel. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, another question. Bring on a difficult one.
Yeah, give us a hard question. Come on, guys. Chris, I've got, just to clear up a couple of things from the chat earlier. Some people asked, how long does the talk typically last? Our good Melita responded to that. It's about max 17 minutes. However, we say on average, we try and keep our talks from our speakers to around the 10 to 15 minute mark, sometimes less. I've seen some pretty impressive talks happen in 8 or less. If you are really a really compelling speaker and you know your content, I mean, you can get that point across really quickly. And people tend to remember those a little bit better because there's less noise around the point you're trying to make. So That's for us on that. We do take applications, just reading down the list, we do take applications from anywhere in the world. We do have some speakers that end up being local, but we also have international speakers, as is the way with Lausanne, Switzerland, I guess. But we do accept applications from everywhere. Anybody else have a question from the floor that we can answer? No? We have answered all of your questions?
No, we've intimidated everyone. It happens all the time when we do webinars. Emily, what is the latest someone can apply for any given event? Is like 2 weeks before enough, or is everything closed 6 months before? How does it work?
I would say that it is, we accept applications on a rolling basis, right? So you can send your application to TEDxLausanne at any time. We usually stop screening applications for the upcoming event before a few months before the event takes place, because by then we've sort of established our lineup for that year. However, I wouldn't say that you shouldn't apply at any time. I do think it's important that you stay in touch with us and that you see when we're going to be announcing our next event, and then we will obviously let you know when those applications are being accepted. We accept them, yes, of course, on a rolling basis, but for example, we would probably prioritize those that have come in a bit earlier so that we can properly screen them, and usually coach them. Yeah. And by the time we get to a few months before the event, we're looking at a lineup that's pretty solidified, and then we're only looking for 1 or 2 talks that are sort of outside of the, besides the topics we've already covered. So best to send it in earlier rather than later.
And I've another nice question that actually we have received before. Dimitri asked whether you and I have considered giving a TED Talks ourselves.
We haven't, because we're in the business of making TEDx speakers.
But thank you for thinking we could do it.
But thanks for the confidence. No, I mean, I think any of us that work in the team, and this goes for anybody even beyond the speaker team, we are always very interested in ideas we're spreading, and the entire team of people, just to mention, we're all volunteers. This is stuff that we do aside from our regular jobs, and we're all really just excited by the ideas we're spreading and that whole methodology. And so I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in the TEDx team who wouldn't be ready to sort of give a talk on something or share an idea. Everybody's pretty passionate about that. But thanks for the confidence. That's great.
Yeah, I take it. Huh?
Have we already selected the new speakers for 2021? The short answer is no. We have started some of the process of looking at the theme. We're looking at what 2021 might look like, but we're also waiting to see when we can schedule that next event. So a lot of things in play at the moment, but if you have some ideas, please send them through. We are very much a democratic association, and we love to brainstorm and accept new ideas. And Anya, she wants a clarification. Sorry, I maybe wasn't clear on that. We accept applications all the time. However, if you're thinking about applying for next year, I would suggest waiting until the event has been scheduled, because it also impacts you. I mean, if you're unavailable on the day of the event or the week before the event, it's probably not a good time for you. So you can apply at any time. It's an open rolling application, but I would suggest waiting until we announce the date of the next event.
Actually, I want to ask Anya a question. I mean, Anya, how will that impact your talk? Will you tweak it to fit the theme so you get a spot, or is your idea so flexible and modulable that you can just shape it to please us? I mean, I'm playing a bit the devil's advocate, but these are things we hear a lot. And if you have an idea that you believe really belongs on a stage, then it probably will convince us. And the themes are usually, and probably I get a private message by our boss Damien, but in a general manner, the theme is wide enough that if we have an outstanding idea that we really believe we need to share with everyone, it fits in a way in a theme.
Yeah,
right?
we always try and make sure that the theme is something that is broad enough to fit in a variety of topics, but is narrow enough that we have some sort of a guiding light or a red thread throughout the event.
Yeah. And Anya says it was more to understand if she's suitable for the event. And Anya, no offense, I'm just playing a bit.
Now
as
you're
soon
seeing,
as you are convinced
now you're
that you
seeing
are
Chris's
fitting,
coaching style.
Yeah, I think as soon as you yourself have decided that you're fitting, I think that will show in your application no matter the content, and we might have a nice conversation. Guys, trust yourself. If you have an idea worth spreading and you believe that you're the right person right now to talk about it, and to more people than just your family or the people who are already inclined to be on your side, then it's worth reaching out. And you know, and if, you can also reach out to us on LinkedIn, and you know, not to spam us, but if you just ask a quick question or invite us for a coffee, you know, that's also an idea we might think about once Corona allows it again. And so trust yourself, and you know, there are a lot of ideas. We are a lot of people on earth, and there are a lot of great ideas.
Yeah. And I think more than anything, we love seeing someone come and present themselves as an applicant who is a genuine person, who has a concept that they've been working on or a story they'd like to tell, and they're just so excited about it. I mean, that excitement, you can't teach that. That's something that you bring with you as a person.
Yeah, Nolly invites us for a Skype coffee. Thank you. We gladly accept. Please
yes, we accept.
Also, we actually, as Damien says in the chat, we show various point of views and topics in each event by the rules, you know, and that is more on the rules side. It's true that the methodology and our mandate, if you like, as organizers, we can't provide single lane views. So our idea is as well to spark discussions, debates, and to inspire people with new ideas worth spreading. So we look out for that as well, which influences the lineup selection a lot, actually.
Yeah, and Orpheus, you see that we've put back up the 5 TED Talks that we were discussing, so you can see that. Isabel
Will the next event be at the Lausanne Opera House again? We don't know. It was not in the Opera House in 2019. We always aim for the stars. So if you guys want to pre-buy your tickets, and we will have already 800 sold tickets, we will certainly go for Swiss Tech. And we make an outside event for 5,000 people. I think we can do it, and we have the drive. As you guys know, it depends on a bit more factors, so we can't tell now.
No, but I think it is worth mentioning, Chris, that as we're looking at celebrating 10 years of TEDx Lausanne, we're really looking to do things differently and to shake things up. And we're looking to engage even more of the network than we've engaged in the past. We're looking to really expand this community. Hence some of the work that we're doing now on these webinars. We're really interested to hear from you. So if you have great ideas, please share.
Okay, yes. I just want to answer a question that was there for someone who was hoping to get the talks again that we shared, the 5 ones. I put the slide up. I hope that gave you, I don't know who it was, the opportunity to note that down.
Yes, we got it. Okay.
And great. Then the next question, what's
the opinion between TEDx and Toastmasters? That's a Chris question.
Yeah, it has, in my view, nothing to do with each other. I mean, Toastmasters is a public speaking club, to simplify, so it's a great platform to practice communication and listening skills, and I've been in it for 10 years, but TEDx really is a platform. So if you, Rob, are referring to the speech projects in Toastmasters, which make you train in different skills, it certainly is a very, very solid foundation for public speaking, and you will largely benefit from everything you learn in Toastmasters in speaking in public. So yes, a TED Talk is from that angle, just another layer. So if you are already advanced enough to go into the storytelling part, to engage with the audience, to master table topics and so on, I think you're at a good stage to master a TED Talk. It's a little bit more on the speech design, but if you are advanced in Toastmasters and you're aware of it, I think you will write or prepare your speeches already very close to what TED format shows.
Yeah, great. All right, we've got some thanks, gotta go messages. Does anybody else have a burning question for for Chris and I, we're happy to take any other questions if you have them, or if you're one of those people who prefers not to ask your question in front of 42 other participants, feel free to send us a message in the chat, or you can send us emails. We put our emails on that slide. Chris,
Yes.
if you can just reshare the slide.
The bottom. And we will definitely, if those come in, and we will look at the chat again, we will use them to generate content. We'll try to answer them in the coming weeks. You can sign up to our newsletter. Everything is on the website, TEDxLausanne.com, quite easy. We really encourage you to do it. We love to exchange with you, to feel that someone's out there, because we are as lonely in the home office as every one of you. It's not just because we're TEDx coaches that changes. So very happy to have you guys on board, to feel that you're interested, to have so many participants. Yeah,
that's great. And Orpheus, your question is not silly. He said, does a TEDx speaker need to pay something if selected? No. And Demi has already responded. No, there's no fees at any point with TEDx speaker, and also they don't get paid. It's also important, again, to note that none of the people in TEDx Lausanne get paid. We're all volunteers spending our time to do this because we believe in it.
Yes, definitely. But we get out of a lot out of it. I learn a lot, and it's really a fabulous feeling to accompany people, to help them talk about something that really shaped their life and it means something, and then see them succeed. And if something wonderful as standing ovations happen, such as with the young guy I talked about, it really gave me goosebumps. That's something where I can say that that's one of the reasons why I do this work, next to some other factors, but this is really something special.
Yeah, it's a really exciting team to work with, and we're very happy to have the time that we have together. And also, we're our speakers' #1 fans, so it's an exciting job.
Good. Before we start blabbering on, is there any burning question we need to answer? Otherwise, we will call it a webinar.
It looks like we are set, and look at that, we even finished a bit early.
Marie-Philippe has a question. I saw her. No? Okay, sorry.
No, good.
Just already waving to us. Great. Okay. Good.
Thanks so much, everyone. We know that it's not easy to take time in these crazy times to do this, so we really appreciate you being with us.
Have a good evening, everyone. Stay safe, best safe distances, and hope to talk soon.
Yes, take care. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye now.
Bye. Thanks for joining us. Now the mass exodus.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Camila.
Bye. See you soon. All right. Great. And